On to other stories. It's been 5 hours and Ghana Fire Service is still grappling to totally put out fire that has destroyed more than 200 shops at Kantamanto. Eyewitnesses say the fire started around 4:30 a.m. More than 7 fire tenders have been dispatched to help douse the fire. My colleague Michael Papania-Shali, who has been reporting on the situation at Kantamanto, says though firefighters have managed to bring the fire under control, there are still pockets of fire and smoke still emanating from parts of the affected market. He joins us live with some updates. Michael, has the fire service been able to extinguish the fire completely?
Aisha, I'll leave that question, the answer to that question, to the fire service themselves. But to paint a picture of what exactly is happening now, it's been close to 8 hours, or six to 8 hours since the fire started. And what is left of now is this, empty shops, because people have managed to clear their goods and people continue to remove their items from some of the few shops that were not affected here. So this is the last shop the National Fire Service worked on, the last shop to also catch fire here. But what we understand is that they've managed to bring the fire under control. But these are just the embers, the remaining embers of the fire. But it continues to burn here. Finally, this room here that you see in your shot is a bit dark, but earlier there was a light inside. It contains something that the Ghana National Fire Service found as a surprise. One of their, what they call their fire hydrants here. So there's a fire hydrant that has been built over a challenge the fire service has been complaining over for years now. Let's find out from the National Fire Service, is the fire truly contained? You still see not just smoke, but fire as well. Let me speak to the PRO, National PRO of the Ghana National Fire Service, ACFO, Timothy Osafo Efum, who will explain to us what exactly the situation is now. ACFO, thank you very much for joining us on JN Today.
Thank you very much.
So, we've had reports that you responded very late. They've been calling you for 1 hour. How do you respond to that?
That cannot be true. I don't think anybody called us within that period. We rather, when we got here, realized that the fire has been raging for a long time. Now, what is the distance between Kantamanto and what we call Accra City Fire Station? That is Makwala. So if they had been calling us for 1 hour, why didn't they run and call us? I don't think anybody called us. What happened was that we received the first call at 35 minutes after 4 this morning. And we rushed and got here within 6 minutes. When we got here, we realized the situation was out of control. Therefore, we requested for assistance. And 8 other fire tenders were mobilized to this scene. So I don't think anybody called us and for us to wait. If you should ask them what number they called, there you will see whether they called or they didn't call.
So, let's talk about how long did it take you to actually get here? What was your response time?
That is what I'm saying. It took us 6 minutes. Because from our records, we got here 45 minutes after 4 a.m., which means it's 6 minutes that it took us to get here.
Great. Now, let's talk about the current situation. But before that, the challenges. It wasn't easy trying to douse the fire. At least we came here around 4 a.m. It's now midday, and I'm now seeing that you have managed to do something. So, what were the challenges in trying to get access to the place?
One is accessibility. Because apart from this street that we are standing on, because it was early morning, so it was not occupied, there were no other access to inside of the market itself. And so we had to couple a lot of hoses before we could get to the scene to fight the fire. So I think that is one. And congestion was also another. So these are the two factors that impeded smooth firefighting.
So where are we now with the fire?
We are at the very tail end of it. Now we realize that we are now just left with this side. What we are doing, we term it overhaul. So the overhaul means we turn over those items already burnt to ensure that whatever embers are left in there are extinguished completely. We don't want to live here and we'll be called back that there is re-ignition. So that is what we are doing now.
But I see fire there. I mean, is this supposed to be normal?
Yes, you see, that is where they were packing all their goods. And these are materials. So once you've not been able to put water on it, it will continue to smolder. What you are seeing is smoldering. It's not proper flame that you see. So that is why we are doing what we call the overhaul. The overhaul is to turn them over and then put water on it to completely extinguish it.
So you are definitely containing now?
Sure.
Great. Now let's talk about your fire hydrant. We just shown our viewers that you have a fire hydrant here. You had no idea about it. They built over it. How big of a challenge is it? Because I realized that for about 20 minutes now, you've been able to pump water into finishing this particular way. You definitely have to travel between here and wherever you get the water from. I mean, how big of a challenge is that?
Now, I have always been saying that in firefighting, availability of adequate, constant flow of water is about 60% of the job that is done. So if you have water constantly flowing, 60% of the job is already done. The rest, 40%, is for the manpower and the knowledge that we apply. And so if you don't have water to do the work, then it means you have a deficit. You are starting from negative 60. You are doing 160% job before you can be able to complete. So that is how difficult it was.
But how challenging is this to find that people continue to build over your hydrants?
I am surprised because this is an area that belongs to the city authorities. And so I am surprised why a building has been put on a fire hydrant. And you see, we were not even aware. It is they themselves, the market women, who came forward and told us that you have a fire hydrant here. Only for us to discover that this is the situation. And we are not being fair to ourselves. How can a developer develop on a hydrant? That same thing that is supposed to protect you, you have built on it. Supposing that hydrant was available, did you know how quickly we could have finished with the job?
You tell me, how much would it have helped if you had discovered this hydrant earlier?
Now, what it means is that we will not be shuffling and going to look for water. We will just couple our hoses to it and get water directly into the fire tenders to fight the fire. That is how simple it will have been for us. But this one, because it was blocked, we had to travel to far distances and get the water, come back before we continue the firefighting.
I'll come back to you. Let me thank you very much. So that's ACFO Timothy Osafo Efum giving us an update of the fire situation in Kantamanto. I am told that they are just at the tail end of making sure that they are completely doused this fire here. But for the shop attendants, they continue to count their losses. Some of them have lost hundreds of millions of Ghana cedis owing to this particular inferno. Aisha, back to you in the studio.
Vania Shale is our man on the ground. We'll definitely bring you more on this in our subsequent bulletins. But when...